Hi everyone, I'm Helen from Susan's family. Today I'm bringing you Plum and Pearl bag from Chinese aesthetic series. It's divided into the bag body, decorations, accessories, and strap sections. First, make the bag body. Then create the decorative elements and attach them to the bag body. Next, assemble the accessories. During the process, overall sewing is required. Finally, make and attach the strap. Let's start by making the bag body. Here we're embroidering the pattern onto a pre-made mesh board. It's divided into two sections, the border and the fishbone pattern. First, embroider the border. After that's completed, embroider the fishbone pattern. First, let me demonstrate how to embroider the border. Follow the chart and pull out the thread in the corresponding areas. Watch my demonstration of the embroidery method. Take the mesh board. For convenience of explanation, I'll refer to the top area as section 1. The middle horizontal area as section 2. And the remaining area as section 3. Before starting the actual embroidery, you need to trim the mesh board. As you can see at the top of section 1, the edge of the mesh board has a right angle here. Trim it into a smooth curve. Trim at 1 grid position from the edge. Slightly round it off. Don't trim too much. Now the mesh board is ready. Then take the corresponding yarn. I'm using random colors here. Refer to the chart for specific yarn and color scheme. Cut a long yarn tail. Tail length can be adjusted based on your sewing preference. Thread the yarn into the needle. Align the yarn ends. Then tie a knot. This creates 2 strands of yarn. Treat them as 1 strand for sewing. Follow the chart downward. Sew into the corresponding grid squares on the border. Choose any section's border to begin sewing. I'm starting at the corner side of section 1. At the right side corner. Count down from the top to the 3rd row, and find the corresponding grid. Then count to the 4th grid from the right. 1 square on the chart corresponds to 1 square on the grid board. Insert from the front. The grid squares, where the ends of the line segment on the chart are located, are the insertion points. Leave a small tail, thread through the middle. Pull tight. Place the knot on the wrong side. The grid board doesn't have a right or wrong side. Everyone can choose either side as the right side. Side as the right side. Everyone can choose either side as the right side. Later, for convenience while embroidering, you can turn over the grid board. Here the chart shows 1 thread, meaning sew once. Then this grid position is complete. Continue to the next grid. The chart still shows one thread. Sew once. Insert from the corresponding grid on the right side. Then draw through the middle of the 2 strands below. Gently tighten. Sewing complete. Pay attention to tidy up the segments while sewing. Keep the segments neat and flat. Sew down to the next grid. Along this edge going forward, sew once for each. Same as before, draw through the middle of the 2 strands. Pay attention to smoothing out the edge texture. All insertion points on the inner side of the border are within 1 row of grids. Don't insert in the wrong position. When you run out of yarn midway, tie a knot with the remaining yarn on the wrong side. For extra security, tie several knots. Then hide it into the nearby segments. After that, pick up the new yarn and continue sewing. First, secure the thread on the backside. To keep the edge texture neat and tidy. Then continue sewing. This way the edge won't show obvious seam marks. Keep sewing downward. Now reaching the corner position on this side. Refer to the chart, weave through this grid a few times. Match the number of times to the lines shown in the chart. Adjust the number of passes as needed. Just make sure the curved edge is evenly wrapped. Pay attention if there's a noticeable dent in the curved part. Fill it in until it's flat. If one grid isn't enough to hold the thread, continue weaving into the adjacent grid. After completing, keep threading through the grids above. For the few grids following the rounded corner, if a lot is exposed, you can weave through a few more times as needed. On the inner side, still go through the same column. Just make sure the curve is smoothly and flatly covered. On the inner side of the connecting line, use those grids. Insert the hook into the third grid below. Pull out the needle at the corresponding grid. Then continue threading through the grids in this row to the right. For the top edge, stitch out at the inner side grids of the connecting row. If it's hard to thread here, you can bend the grid board slightly. Continue threading. When the yarn becomes too short during the process, thread the yarn from the outer grid to the wrong side. Then tie a knot using the previous method, and take new yarn to continue sewing. When pulling out, exit at the small segment position above. Then continue sewing. Next, continue sewing down to the arc position on the other side. At the corner grid, follow the chart for the arc position, or thread according to the situation. After completing, continue threading along the side edge. Keep going until the remaining part is finished. Finish embroidering this corner position. This round of border is now complete. Go through the small segment at the starting edge once more. Pass through to the backside at the adjacent small segment. Finally, tie a knot on the wrong side. Hide the remaining yarn tails inside the fabric. Everyone complete it. So the border section of section 1 is now finished. Embroider the borders of the remaining sections using the same method. Pay attention, where the borders meet, don't thread through the wrong grid. The borders of two sections meet at the same position. Refer to the previous demonstration. Refer to the chart. Finish embroidering the remaining border sections. Up to this point, the demonstration of the border embroidery is now complete. Next, embroider the fishbone stitch. Here I'll also explain by section. First, demonstrate the fishbone stitch in section 1. Take the thread. Here, for convenient watching, I'll use another color to demonstrate. Everyone can first check the number of grids. You can embroider from the middle toward both sides, or embroider from one side. Here, a total of 9 columns of fishbone stitch need to be embroidered. The edge column covers one more grid than the other columns, but the embroidery method is the same. Here I'll first embroider the fishbone stitch on the right edge, which is also the fishbone stitch with one extra grid. Refer to the chart and locate the diagonal line at the bottom right corner. Thread diagonally here. Begin by pulling out the needle from the wrong side. Insert from the front. Don't make a knot with the thread yet. Tidy up the yarn so it doesn't knot. Draw through between the previous two strands. Then come out at the adjacent grid next to the previous insertion point. Insert at the position corresponding to the diagonal line. Keep the embroidered segment flat as well. Then come out at the grid adjacent to where you just inserted. Insert into the corresponding position. Continue stitching backward using this method. When pulling out the needle, come out through the adjacent grid. Move up along the 6th diagonal line. In between, thread across exactly 5 grids each time. Continue stitching in this way afterward. Pay attention that the last few diagonal lines become narrower. Embroider according to the position on the chart. After finishing here, the back will have a texture of small raised horizontal bars. Finish the last diagonal line. Go downward and tie off the yarn tail on the wrong side to secure it. Hide the remaining yarn ends into the fabric. If the remaining yarn tail is long enough, you can continue to embroider the next column of fishbone stitch. Note that within a single column or between two columns, the needle always comes out from an adjacent grid. Avoid spanning too many grids. At the same time, each subsequent column should be embroidered symmetrically with the previous one. Refer to the chart and complete the rest accordingly. That concludes the explanation for the fishbone stitch in section 1. Next, we'll move on to the fishbone stitch in section 3. Here, embroider 2 rows of pattern horizontally. Start from the right edge of the diagonal line in the top row of pattern. Embroider towards the left following the chart. Here, the exit points of the diagonal lines are always next to the adjacent diagonal. Also note that both ends of each row of pattern will narrow. Refer to the chart for the exact positions of inserting and pulling out the needle. After completing the first row, Continue by pulling out the needle from an adjacent grid, and embroider the next row of pattern underneath. Everyone please refer to the chart and finish it on your own. The herringbone pattern in section 3 is worked in the same way as the one in section 1. A total of 9 columns need to be embroidered, and the direction also corresponds to that of the section. Please refer to the chart and complete the embroidery accordingly. That completes all the explanation for the herringbone pattern section. And with this, the entire bag body area is now finished. Next, we'll make and attach the decorations, which are divided into motifs and colored beads. Here, the motifs need to be crocheted. First, make the motifs and attach them. Then add the colored beads at the corresponding positions. There are 2 types of motifs here. I'll call the complete motif, motif 1, and the half flower 1, motif 2. Here, the motifs need to be worked and joined simultaneously. First crochet 1 motif, then crochet the remaining motif 1s and motif 2s, and work and join them along the side according to the motif layout diagram. Here, I'll first demonstrate crocheting and joining motif 1. First crochet the first motif 1, using a magic ring to start, crocheting outwards in rounds counterclockwise. The stitches used include chain, half double crochet, HDC2 puff, single crochet, double crochet and slip stitch. Watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Here, color 1 yarn is actually used for crocheting. This yarn has different starting color segments, resulting in slightly different effects when crocheted. You can refer to the finished product for reference, or choose your preferred starting color segment. Also, this yarn is not easy to unravel. We suggest learning first, or practicing with more convenient, easily removable yarn. For easier viewing, here I'll demonstrate using cotton yarn. Start with a magic ring. Then chain 2 as beginning chain. Next, insert into the ring and work a half double crochet. Then chain 3 as a bridge. Continue by inserting into the ring, work a HDC2 puff stitch. From now on I'll simply call it a puff stitch. First, make an incomplete half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and pull through. This is an incomplete half double crochet. Work another incomplete half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over and pull through. There are now 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and draw through all loops in once. Puff stitch is done. Then chain 3 as a bridge. Then insert into the ring and work a puff stitch. Work 2 incomplete half double crochets. 1, 2. Finally yarn over and draw through all loops in once. Puff stitch is done. Then follow with 3 chain stitches, 1 puff stitch, alternate crocheting 3 times. Once. Twice. 3 times. After completing, continue with 3 chain stitches. Now everyone check. Here the beginning chain and the first half double crochet count as 1 special bobble stitch. This round has a total of 6 puff stitches, separated by 3 chain stitches. Close the ring. After finishing, pick up the stitch of the first half double crochet, which is next to the starting chain. The chain corresponding to the upper right of the stitch. Insert the hook. Work 1 slip stitch to join. This slip stitch does not count as one stitch. Pull tight. So the first round is completed. Move on to crochet the second round. Make one beginning chain to start. This is the turning chain for single crochet, doesn't count as one stitch. Next, pick the chain space of the 3 chains on the left side. Work 1 single crochet into it. You can place the starting tail over your hook and hide it as you crochet. In the same position, continue with 1/2 double crochet, 3 double crochets. One half double crochet, 1 single crochet. I see the stitches worked into this chain space as a small petal. Continue down to pick the chain space. Work a small petal. Let me demonstrate once again. Insert into the space and work 1 single crochet, 1/2 double crochet, 3 double crochets. One half double crochet, 1 single crochet. Another small petal is done. Continue in the same way. Work the remaining small petals to finish. Complete the last small petal. Go down and pick the single crochet position of the first small petal. Pick the stitch and join with a slip stitch. Pull tight after completing. Round 2 is complete. Now work round 3. Make 1 beginning chain to start. Then pick the same position. Here where the slip stitch was inserted before. Work 1 single crochet. Then make 4 chains between them. Next, pick the first single crochet position of the next small petal. Work 1 single crochet. Place the previous small petal in front of the chains here. Then make 4 chains between them. From now on, work each single crochet into the first single crochet of each small petal, with 4 chain stitches between each single crochet. And after each one, place the small petal in front. Complete the last 4 chains. Pick the first single crochet stitch of this round. The vertical small braid here is the beginning chain. The adjacent horizontal braid is the single crochet stitch. Insert the hook and join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. The third round is complete. Now work round 4. Make 1 beginning chain to start. To the left, pick up the chain space and work 1 single crochet, 1/2 double crochet, 4 double crochets. One half double crochet, 1 single crochet. Treat the stitches in this space as one large petal. Continue picking up chain spaces and crocheting large petals. Complete the last large petal. Pick the first single crochet stitch, and join with a slip stitch. You can tighten or not tighten here. Finally cut the yarn. First secure with a chain stitch, then leave a 30 cm yarn tail. Pull the yarn through. Pull tight. This yarn tail will later be used for sewing. The side where the petals bulge outward is the right side of the fabric. If there's any remaining beginning tail from the cast on, you can trim it now. So the first motif 1 is completed. Everyone can refer to the chart and put together to check the dimension. Continue crocheting the remaining motif 1s and join them. Before connecting, let's take a look first. Here at the position of section 3 of the bag body, you need to attach 5 rows of motifs. Each row consists of 3 motif 1s and 1 motif 2. Along the bottom edge of section 1 of the bag body, you need to attach 1 row of motifs, also made up of 3 motif 1s and 1 motif 2. Here I'll use the motifs in section 1 as an example. To demonstrate the joining, place the first motif 1 at the bottom right corner. Now I'll demonstrate the method of crocheting and joining the motif 1 on the left side. The first 3 rounds of this motif are identical to the first motif 1. Please complete them on your own. I've already completed the first 3 rounds on my swatch. Starting from the 4th round, you need to join a petal position with the first motif 1. The position for joining the petal is up to you. I'm joining at the second to last petal. First, follow the same method as before for motif 1. Crochet until there are 2 petals left. I've now reached the corresponding position. Continue following the large petal crocheting method. Work 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 2 double crochets. Next, join. Enlarge the loop on the crochet hook. Remove the hook. Then pick up the first motif 1. At any large petal. Pick the third double crochet position counting from right to left. Insert into the corresponding stitch on the right side of the fabric. Then draw through the loop that was left. And adjust slightly. Return to the second motif 1. Continue completing this large petal. Here, an overlapping effect is formed between the 2 petals. This is the joining method. Leave the rest unconnected. Continue crocheting. Finally join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. You can choose to tighten or not tighten. Then cut the yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. So the second motif 1 is completed. I'll demonstrate the connection of motif 1 once again. This one in order is the third motif 1 on the left side. First work up to the position just before the large petal that needs joining. My swatch has already reached the corresponding position. Work 1 single crochet, 1 half double crochet, 2 double crochets. Then stretch the loop. Remove the hook. Pick up the two connected motifs 1. Position motif 1 horizontally, then pick the edge of this motif 1. The symmetrical petal position where the petal was previously joined. On the third double crochet from right to left on the corresponding petal. Insert into the stitch. Pull the loop through. After joining, take a look, the right side of the fabric facing up. Then continue to complete this large petal. This completes the petal connection. Continue crocheting the remaining large petals. Finally join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Cut the yarn and leave a tail for sewing. That's all for the third motif 1. Refer to the layout diagram for motif 1 in section 3 of the body. Crochet and join correspondingly. The joining method is the same. Before joining, arrange the position first. Find the correct position of the large petals to be joined. Then proceed with the connection. Pay attention not to join in the wrong position. Everyone continue to crochet and complete the remaining motif 1. Move on to crocheting and joining motif 2. Start with a magic ring. Then work back and forth in rows. The stitch pattern is identical to motif 1. Only the crocheting method is different. Watch my demonstration. Start with a magic ring. Then make a beginning chain of 2 chains. Work 1/2 double crochet. 3 chain stitches. Then repeat 1 bobble stitch. 3 chain stitches, 2 times. Work 1 more bobble stitch. Then close the ring. Do not join with a slip stitch at the end. This completes the first round. Now move on to the second round. Make 1 beginning chain to start, then turn the work. Pick up the chain spaces to the left and crochet small petals. Keep the yarn tail behind and weave it in as you go. Finish crocheting the last small petal. Insert the hook into the edge of the previous row. The stitch of the half double crochet. Work a slip stitch. When crocheting on the wrong side of the previous row, the stitch is located at the top left. Do not pull tight after the slip stitch here. The pattern chart shows this with an oval dot. This completes the second round. Now begin the third round. Make 1 beginning chain to start. Turn the work. Pick the single crochet in the adjacent small petal on the left. Make 1 single crochet correspondingly. Then work 4 chain stitches. Then pick the small petal on the left side, at the adjacent single crochet position. Insert the hook and work a single crochet. Here the chain is in front of the petal. Then work 4 chain stitches. Continue to pick the first single crochet of the next small petal on the left and work a single crochet. 4 chain stitches. Then pick the edge single crochet stitch of the edge small petal. Insert the hook and work a single crochet. Row 3 is complete. Continue to crochet row 4. Here you need to crochet 3 large petals. The centered large petal needs to be joined. Make 1 beginning chain to start. Turn the work, then crochet 1 large petal. After completing, crochet the second large petal and join it. The joining method is the same as for motif 1. Position it correctly before joining. Find the corresponding petal. Then match and connect. After completing, finish the current petal. Then continue crocheting the next large petal. Finally pick up the single crochet from the edge of the previous row. Work a slip stitch. Then cut the yarn. Remember to leave a 30 cm yarn tail. The yarn tail from the beginning can be cut off. Now one motif 2 is completed and joined. Crochet and join the remaining motif 2's using the same method. Attach them to the correct positions as needed. Please complete this part on your own. That concludes the explanation of crocheting and joining the motifs. The motifs are now completed. Next, we'll proceed with the assembly. Here I'll demonstrate using the motif from section 1 of the bag body. Place it horizontally below section 1, on the inner side of the border. Here motif 2 is on the left side. You can adjust the position and direction according to your preference. Then use the reserved yarn. To temporarily secure the motif in place, thread the yarn to the wrong side. And tie the tails together in pairs with simple knots to lightly fix them. Pay attention not to tie double knots. Then check if the effect on the right side looks good. Adjust again if it doesn't fit properly. Once it fits properly, Begin sewing. Here I'll use one of the motifs as an example. To demonstrate the sewing method, thread the corresponding motif's yarn tails into the yarn needle. Pick the wrong side of the motif and sew it roughly in position corresponding to the body. There's no specific method required, just make sure it's secure. Sew at the 6 outermost petals of motif 1. Pay attention not to go through to the right side of the motif, to avoid affecting the appearance. After completing, pass the thread to the back side and tie a knot with the adjacent yarn tail to secure it. You can make a few more knots for extra security. Weave in the remaining yarn tails into the fabric. You can weave in a few extra stitches. Now one motif is securely sewn on. Attach the rest of the motifs using the same method. Use the reserved yarn to pick up the back side and sew them in place. Complete this part on your own. Here is the motif section of section 3 of the body. First lay them flat and position correctly. You can secure 2 of the 4 corner motifs by threading their yarn tails to the back side. Secure the yarn tails of the 2 corner motifs by bringing them to the wrong side. The yarn tails of the middle motifs can be left unsecured. Then use the reserved yarn to pick up the back side of each motif and sew them together. Complete this step on your own. That concludes the explanation for attaching the motifs. Next, attach the beads. Here, in the gaps between motifs, sew them at a relatively centered position within the corresponding area. Along one horizontal row of motifs, attach beads of one color. Now I'll demonstrate the sewing method. Here I'll continue using a small sample for the demonstration. The position and bead colors are up to you. Take a piece of thread. Insert it into a thin needle. Note that the needle should be able to pass through the beads. Then position the bead properly and begin sewing. Leave a little yarn tail at the back at the beginning. beads. Sew a few times securely to make it firm. Later tie a knot with the beginning and ending threads at the wrong side. If the remaining strand is long enough, you can continue to sew the next bead. When the thread end is short, cut off the excess. Or simply tuck it to the back. Attach the remaining beads using the same method to their corresponding positions. Complete this part on your own. That concludes the explanation for bead decoration, and the decoration section is now complete. Next, we'll install the accessories, which includes the lining, overall sewing and magnetic clasps. Start by sewing 1/2 of the magnetic clasp. Then cut and sew the lining. Then sew the main bag pieces together as a whole. Finally attach the other half of the magnetic clasp. First, at section 1 of the bag body. Sew on the magnetic clasp. Each magnetic clasp set consists of 2 pieces. A female part and a male part. You can start by attaching either the male or female part. Next, I'll demonstrate the method. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch. Using regular sewing thread to sew it on, take a long tail and thread it through a thin needle. Tie a knot at the yarn end. Then place the male part or female part on the inner side of section 1's border. Here I'll use the female part as an example, at a relatively centered position in this area, just above the motif diagonally. 1/2 of the magnetic clasp, sew horizontally through all 4 holes. Begin by passing through between 2 strands. Secure the yarn tail in place. At this hole position. Sew 2-3 times. If you want it more secure, sew a few more times. Sew the remaining 2 holes using the same method. After completing, tie several knots with the yarn tail on the wrong side and adjacent thread to secure. Hide the remaining yarn tail into the fabric. Everyone complete this step on your own. This is the effect after one female part is attached. Attach the other female part symmetrically. Everyone complete this step on your own. Now let's talk about the lining. Start by cutting the lining fabric along the edge of the grid board. Then proceed to sew it. Next, I'll show a way to cut the lining fabric, and how to sew it for your reference. Note the video mainly demonstrates the method. The sample is not for reference. You can learn first, or sew the lining according to your own preference. Please watch the demonstration. Now we'll make the lining. Since there's only one piece of lining fabric, you can first watch my demonstration, then make it yourself. Place the completed embroidered grid board onto the lining fabric. Note that the darker wrong side of the lining fabric should be facing up. and the lighter right side facing down. Here I'm using a swatch for demonstration. The size and pattern are not for exact reference. No lace trim is sewn on. This is mainly a demonstration of the method. Trace the shape of the grid board onto the lining fabric along its edges. Be mindful not to move it while tracing. You can also use weights to press it down, or secure it in a few places with thread, to prevent shifting. Simply fill in the area for the clasp yourself. After completing, follow the marked lines and cut 1 centimeter outside the traced edge. Cut out the lining. Now the lining is ready. Next, sew them together. Place the grid board with its wrong side, facing the wrong side of the lining fabric. To make sewing easier, you can roughly secure them in place with basting thread. When securing, pay attention. Try not to pin too close to the edges, to avoid interfering with later sewing of the lining. I've already secured mine well. Take the yarn as we did when sewing pearls. Start sewing from any position. Fold the edge of the lining to the wrong side. After folding, the edge of the lining should be about 5-6 mm away from the edge of the grid board. First, secure the thread on a segment. Then draw through the folded edge of the lining. Once folded, press the lining firmly in place. Then insert the thread into the segment. Skip a small space and draw through the segment again. Pull tight. Then draw through the edge of the lining. Pull tight. Continue inserting. Draw through. When drawing through, exit both the segment and the edge of the lining at the same time. Try not to show too much of the sewing. When you reach a rounded corner position, fold the lining fabric more smoothly to shape the curve. On this sample swatch, the sewing stitch is spaced wider apart, but in your actual sewing, you can make the stitches closer together. Continue sewing using the previous method. When sewing, try to cover the joining yarn on the border as much as possible. Now we're at the joint position of the grid panel. You can make a small cut in the lining fabric. Be careful not to cut too much. Just enough to make folding convenient. Sew around the entire circle using this way. Remember to make a small cut like this at each joint position. To ensure a flat and smooth connection. Continue sewing downward until the lining is completely attached. When the yarn tail is not long enough midway, tie a knot and weave in the end on the segment. Then take a new piece of yarn to continue sewing. All color change marks are hidden inside the lining. Continue sewing downward. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends neatly. The securing threads can now be removed. This completes the lining attachment. Next, proceed with the overall sewing. Fold along the middle of the grid panel. You'll need to sew all 4 sides together, ultimately forming the shape of the bag body. Below, I'll share a method for overall sewing for your reference. Again, the video mainly demonstrates the technique. The sample is not meant to be a reference. Feel free to learn first, and also adjust the sewing according to your own preference. Please watch the demonstration. Now continue with the overall sewing. Here I'm using a swatch to demonstrate. Size and pattern are not for exact reference. No lace trim is sewn on. The main focus is to demonstrate the method. Here you need to take these 4 edges and match them up to sew together. Take the yarn. Here, for easier viewing, I'm using a different color yarn to demonstrate. Fold the yarn in half and tie a knot. Weave in the end on the wrong side at the joining position. Once secure, draw the thread out at the edge. Then work into the small line segments along the border edge, and sew them corresponding. Remember to pull tight. Here the number of segments don't match exactly. They don't need to be evenly matched. Just make sure both sides are flat and aligned properly. Sew until you reach the position where both mesh panels meet. Finally, bring the yarn to the wrong side. Tie off and weave in the ends neatly. One side is now complete. Sew the remaining sides using the same method. Just sew each to where the edges meet and stop. The method is very simple. Everyone can easily finish it. That concludes the overall sewing part. Next we'll attach the other half of the magnetic clasp. Here, sew it onto the 2 corners above section 3. You can first compare the position to make sure. After fastening, 1 row of motifs should be visible. Now I'll demonstrate the method. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch. The remaining half here is the male part. Take a piece of sewing thread. Thread the needle. And tie a knot at the tail end, then on the inner side of the border. Secure the yarn tail close to the edge. Bring the thread to the right side. Then insert it underneath into the inner side. Then from underneath the line segment, pass through near the starting yarn tail. Draw through between the previous 2 strands. This secures the end well. Then place the male part with the more raised side facing up. At the corresponding position. Next, bring the thread from the inner side of the segment to the hole of the magnetic clasp for sewing. Here you need to pass through the mesh board. Insert the hook into the corresponding hole of the mesh board. Come out to the right side. Then from underneath the line segment. Exit. Bring the thread from the inside to the position of the hole. Sew through 1-2 more times using the same method. After finishing one hole, move the thread from the inner side of the fabric to the next hole. Sew through using the same technique. After sewing all 4 holes, bring the thread to the edge on the inner side of the frame. Pick up a strand and tie a knot to secure. Hide the remaining yarn tail into the edge on the inner side of the frame. The rest can be completed by you. Attach the other male part symmetrically. Now the magnetic clasp section is explained. That covers all the accessories. Next we'll make and attach the strap. Divide it into main part and decoration. First make the main part. After completing it, make and attach the decoration. Finally attach the main part to the corresponding position on the bag body. First let's look at the main part. It is divided into 2 sections. The rope-like parts on both ends are the bag cords. The middle section is the shoulder strap. There are 2 bag cords here. Made in the same way. While crocheting, insert the D-ring. Start by crocheting the bag cord. Begin flat crochet here. Work back and forth from a foundation chain. Then switch to crocheting in rounds. Finally continue working back and forth at the end. For convenience of explanation, I'll call the initial flat crochet section the first part, the following round crochet section the second part, and the final flat crochet section the third part. Crochet them in order. Please watch my demonstration. First crochet the first part. First make a foundation chain. Work 3 chain stitches. Then make 1 beginning chain to start. Next pick up the chain space of the second chain from right to left. Note that the loop on the hook is not counted. Count the chains starting from the left side chain's braid. Pick the braid of the corresponding chain stitch. Pick up 1 strand above. Work 1 single crochet. Then continue picking 1 strand above each chain stitch. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets. The row 1 is completed. Then move on to row 2. First make 1 beginning chain to start. Then turn the work. Pick up the stitches from the previous row going left. Correspondingly make 3 single crochets. Row 2 is done. Continue to crochet row 3. First make 1 beginning chain to start. Turn the work, pick up the stitch below and crochet 3 single crochets. Row 3 is completed. Remaining rows of the first section. Continue crocheting following the method of the first 2 rows. Everyone completed on your own. After completing, start crocheting in rounds. That is, work on the second section. Using the previous yarn tail. First make 1 beginning chain to start. Then take the D-ring. Insert it into the fabric piece. Next locate the starting chain side. Pay attention not to twist the fabric piece here. Pick up the remaining half of the edge chain stitch, this side stitch insertion point. Pick up these 2 strands. Correspondingly make 1 single crochet. After finishing, the fabric forms a loop shape. Don't twist the bottom. Continue downward, picking up the remaining half of each chain stitch. Correspondingly make 2 single crochets. Then follow the crocheting direction. Find the stitch of the last row. Correspondingly make 3 single crochets. Then pick the stitch of the first single crochet from this round. Join with a slip stitch. Pull tight. This completes the first round. Move on to crochet round 2. Make a single crochet. Do not turn the work. Directly pick up stitches to the left. Start from the stitch where the slip stitch was joined previously. Correspondingly make single crochets. Finish with a slip stitch into the first stitch. Pull tight. The second round is complete. For the remaining rounds of the second section, work using the same method as round 2. Complete it on your own. After finishing, crochet the third section. Here I'll use this swatch to demonstrate. For row 1, you need to press the fabric flat while crocheting. Make 1 beginning chain to start, then pinch the fabric flat along the side of the beginning chain. Pick up the first single crochet stitch below, and the last single crochet stitch. Insert hook into both stitches at the same time. Work 1 single crochet. Then continue to pick the corresponding stitches on the left side front and back. Work single crochets. The first row is completed. The first row is completed. The first row is completed. Continue to crochet row 2. Directly work 16 chains. Then turn the work. Pick up the stitch of a single crochet at the edge, and crochet a slip stitch to secure. Gently pull tight here. Then pick up the stitch to the left and work one slip stitch. Gently pull tight again. Then crochet 16 chains. Pick up the same single crochet position, and work a slip stitch. Pull tight. Then move left and pick up the stitch to work a slip stitch. Pull tight. Then crochet 16 chains. Work one slip stitch in the same single crochet position. Gently tighten. Then cut the yarn. No need to leave a long tail here, just leave a little yarn tail. Weave in the tail into the fabric. You can use a yarn needle to weave in the ends. You can weave in a few more stitches if you like. For the other yarn tail, follow the same method, weave it into the fabric as well. That's how we finish making one handle. Please make another handle using the same method. Next, I'll explain how to make the shoulder strap. First, join the yarn and crochet along one side of the handle. At the ending side, secure it to the other handle. We'll use two new stitch techniques, double crochet increase and double crochet decrease. Please watch my demonstration. I'll continue using a swatch for this demo. Pick up one of the handles. Hold the right side of row 1 from section 3 facing you. That is, the side where the stitches look neater. Then pick the large chain space on the top right side. Be careful not to twist the chain. Insert the hook to join the yarn. Pick up the yarn, make a slip knot. Place it onto the crochet hook. Pull through, adjust slightly. Pay attention that the knot should not show on the right side. Then make one beginning chain to start. Work 3 single crochets into one space. You can weave in ends as you go here. Chain 1 to begin next stitch. Continue to the left by picking up the large chain space, and work 3 single crochets. Chain 1 for spacing. Correspondingly make 3 single crochets into the last large space. The row 1 is completed. Move on to row 2. Start with 2 chains as beginning chain. Turn the work. Starting from the first stitch on the left edge, pick up stitches, and work 3 double crochets into each corresponding stitch. When reaching a chain stitch position, pick up the gap below. Work 1 double crochet. Continue to adjacent stitch, pick up stitches, and work 3 double crochets correspondingly. At the chain position, pick the gap and work 1 double crochet. For the remaining stitches, work 3 double crochets. Row 2 is completed. Proceed to row 3. Make a beginning chain of 2 chains. Turn the work. Pick up stitches downward respectively. Correspondingly make double crochets. Complete the last stitch position. Leave the adjacent beginning chain unworked. This completes row 3. Proceed to row 4. Make a beginning chain of 2 chains. Turn the work. Then pick up stitches, and correspondingly make 3 double crochets. Work a double crochet increase in the adjacent stitch, meaning 2 double crochets in 1 stitch. 1 double crochet. 2 double crochets. Complete the double crochet increase. Continue picking up stitches afterward. Correspondingly make 3 double crochets. Then work 1 double crochet increase. Remaining work 3 double crochets. Row 4 is completed. For rows 5 through the 5th to last row, work even with double crochet. Each row begins with making a 2 chain turning chain. Then turn, and pick up stitches from the previous row to crochet. Do not work into the turning chain stitch. Please refer to the chart. Combined with the previous demonstration, continue crocheting all the way to the 5th to last row. After completing, crochet the 4th to last row. I'll continue using the swatch for demonstration. On this row, some positions require decreasing. Make a 2 chain turning chain first. Turn the work, then correspondingly work 3 double crochets into the next stitch. Followed by a double crochet decrease. First pick up the left side stitch to make an incomplete double crochet. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Yarn over and pull through. Then yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. This is an incomplete double crochet. Adjacent, work another incomplete double crochet. Now there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through all loops in once. Complete the double crochet decrease. Then correspondingly work 3 double crochets. Then make 1 double crochet decrease. First work 2 incomplete double crochets. Finally yarn over and draw through all loops in once. Complete the double crochet decrease. Remaining stitches work even double crochet correspondingly. After this, the method for the 4th row from the end is explained. The following 2 rows work even double crochet without increases or decreases. Everyone please complete it on your own. After completing, crochet the final row, you need to crochet and secure the other handle at the same time. First make one beginning chain to start. Turn the work, then pick up the other handle. Place it with the right side facing up. Same as the front side of row 1 in section 3. Then insert into the chain space on the right side at this moment. And the front stitch. Correspondingly make 3 single crochets. First insert into the front stitch. Then insert into the corresponding back loophole. Work 3 single crochets together. After completing, pick the front stitch to the left. Work 1 single crochet alone. Then pick up the stitch and the left chain space. Work 3 single crochets together. After completing, pick up the stitch, and make 1 single crochet alone. Then pick up the stitch and the last chain space. Work 3 single crochets. This secures it in place. Finally cut the yarn. Hide the yarn tail to the wrong side. This completes the explanation of the strap crocheting. Both ends are connected to the bag cord. This completes the explanation of making the main part. Next, make the decorations, which consist of motif 1. First crochet and join 8 motif 1s. Leave a tail for sewing after each motif is completed. After finishing, sew them onto the shoulder strap area of the main part. Pay attention to place the right side facing up, meaning the bag cord side should be facing up. Then use the reserved yarn from the motifs. Pick up through the surface of the strap and sew. Remember not to go through to the back, to avoid affecting the appearance. Everyone can complete this part on your own. That concludes the decoration section. Finally, attach the bag straps. Sew the D-rings onto both sides of the bag body. Sew at the edges on both ends of the bag opening. Similarly, the sewing position here can also be adjusted according to personal preference. Next, I'll demonstrate the method. Here, I'm demonstrating with a small swatch, mainly to show the method. Position is up to you. Take a piece of yarn from the bag body. Attach. Thread the needle. Place the straight side of the D-ring at the corresponding position. Pick up along the edge of the D-ring and sew it to match the edge of the bag body. No specific method required, just make it secure. Leave a little yarn tail at the beginning. Number of stitches is also optional. After completing, bring the thread to the starting tail. Tie a knot with both ends to secure. If the leftover tails are too long, Trim them shorter. Then hide them into the fabric. One side of the D-ring is now attached. Attach the other side symmetrically. When attaching, make sure the strap doesn't twist. That's all for the strap assembly. Up to this point, the entire bag making process is now complete. If you still have unclear parts during the crocheting process, don't hesitate to join our Facebook group to get supports. Susan's Family. Supporting your handwork experience. Sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.